Hi there, VC. Mick back. This time with a tribute to a favourite artist of mine. It is Fela Kuti, the Nigerian Afrobeat pioneer. This video is being inspired by the fact of collecting not only a artist with such a big catalogue, African records in general being a little bit hard to find, not only in Australia, but also in the context of their condition, and which is the best way forward for dealing with that sort of context. And also a celebration of Fela Kuti's music and life. So let's get it underway. So even though Fela was a Nigerian star, he initially went to Trinity College in London to study music. His family were from a upper to middle class background, well, with enough money to send their son to London to go to school. He also ended up living in LA for some time. Anyway, this is the first album I'm showing. There's a 1969 Sessions album that's available, but this one is the Knitting Factory version of this album, The Beginning of Afro Funk. Keeping in with Fela's relationship with British musicians, this is Africa 70, featuring Ginger Baker, Heo Cream's fame, and this particular reissue is made into 3 sides and is mastered from the original tapes and cut at Abbey Road Studios. So this one you'll see around from time to time. In particular, probably his most popular album, and it's focusing on both himself and Ginger Baker's move to Nigeria in the early 70s. Ginger would hang out at Fela's compound and sing and drum along. This, I believe, would be the definitive edition. It comes from the Knitting Factory Records label, and it's licensed by the estate of Fela, but nicely cut by Miles Show at Abbey Road Studios. Fela keeps going into the 70s, this time with Na Poi. Now, all these records would have initially been in Nigerian Pidgin English, so I'm probably butchering it, but they're Knitting Factory trying to remain true to some aspects of the original. And as we keep collecting through Fela's life, we hit open and closed. This one actually is a gatefold. And this is the 50th anniversary reissue, and I guess at this point in time, Fela's revolutionary politics brought him into conflict with Nigerian military regimes, which made attempts to suppress him and burn down his communal house, the Calcutta Republic. Fela obviously refused to be silenced, and after various burnings, the commune was burnt down and then rebuilt by Fela. So what we have here, though, is once again a fantastic repress, and because of the state of African records, often by the time they have made, well, to Australia, but to the West, this is probably a definitive version of Open and Close. We continue on with Fela's journey, and this is Fela Kuti and the Africa 70. Tony Allen is on drums. Igo Shiko is on tenor sax. Henry Kofi is on the congas. Segan Ito is on the tenor guitar. Magic album. Probably a good time to mention now one of the controversial aspects of Fela is that he had 27 wives and was a polygamist, probably a little bit in the traditional sense, and Fela did present himself as the African male, a typical type, but also from the viewpoint that often his singers were on tour with him, and he didn't want to be accused by the Nigerian government of trafficking women across borders. So hard to know where everything exactly falls in that sphere, but Fela was certainly faced with other pressures, and there we are. Knitting Factory continue their brilliant reissue job. Okay, more 50th anniversary, and this time we have something that's been expanded into 4 sides. Once again, the Africa 70 are involved. Tony Allen, Henry Coffey still remain. This goes into a 4-sided piece. And is one of his key albums. We get 1 song a side. So, yes, this is made in Germany, and maybe the most audiophile of all these releases I'm showing. Okay, let's continue on with his 50th anniversary reissue. Once again, the album's made into a four-sided affair, and here we have Refuro Fight. Once again, beautifully remastered, and this was originally released in 1972. No gatefold, but like all these reissues, we do get some pretty good inners, and we get to see Fela there on the boards. Let's keep on going. Now we have Gentleman, a Fela album from 1973, and I probably want to add, if you hadn't realised by now, Fela was very, very prolific, and sometimes that prolificness was due to the nature of the tracks that were being released, in that they were 20-minute side-long songs. So does that make them an album or an extended play? Anyway, I guess the key point is they're there to be heard, and the particular period from 1970 to 1980 was very prolific. This too is a Knitting Factory release. Let's keep going with Alagabon Close. Tony Allen is still on board. Henry Coffer is still there on the first conga. We have Franco Abodi on the bass guitar, so it's a change from Dommy Jones. And Alagabon Close is close behind his house, where Fela was leading at the time, and you can see his Republic communal house there depicted in the drawing. Another key reason why these Knitting Factory reissues are important is they do restore the original cover art, and mainly because not only is the cover art fantastic, is the African originals often have very damaged cover art. Okay, let's go with Fela in Africa 70s, and this one's Everything Scatter, and he goes through his personnels. Yep, Henry Coffey's still there, Tony Allen's still there. We have a number of saxophones and trumpets, And of course, in this case, it's a 3 conga attack. So does it get any more Afrobeat than that, with Tony Allen making all the necessary moves on the drum kit. Okay, we keep going on, this time with his Miss Road, and this one was originally released in 1975. Continues along with Fela's walk through the 70s. Now the full, and on the back we can see his support for some disadvantaged settlements. Now we start getting into some new area here, particularly from the collecting point of view. So what I'm going to show now is a African original of one of my very favourite albums. Fela ran some Kuti in the Africa 70s, expensive shit. Now these ones are not only a little bit pricey, but also not so easy to find. Tony Allen still on the drums, Tundi Williams is on the trumpet, and they still maintain the 3 conga attack. And this one here is on Sound Workshop Records. And what's unusual about this one is that it's actually in particularly good shape, and not cheap or easy to find in that condition or in that shape. Definitely a jewel in my Fela collection. More favourite albums that I have African originals from. And here we have the Calcutta Show, and on the back we have the police raid of his home in the Republic. Check out that fantastic cover art. 3 conga attack remains. He has a chorus of singers which reflect his high life. And then we have on Calcutta Records, check out that beautiful label there. Vinyl's not too bad for a African pressing that's from the mid-70s. Okay, this is nothing to do with Diana Ross, but Upside Down. And Sandra sings with Fela and Africa 70. So Sandra provides some lead vocals here and joins the Africa 70 cohort to provide some more interesting funk there. Next one is one called Akaya Blindness, but this is typical of a Nigerian 70s record, beaten up to a pulp. Certainly something fetishish about them, and look at this cover work. He's somebody who just invites you to get the originals, and not to mention that some of the masters were burnt in the various attacks from the Nigerian government. Fela owning the 70s in his own intimate style. Okay, the next one's super important, and that's because this is my all-time favourite Fela album, and this is Zombie. This is on the Creole label out of London. This album is what brought Fela into the world. You can see by that it's pretty clean, and on that Creole label. Being my favourite Fela, I did have to find a Nigerian copy of this, and here it sits. And in Nigeria, it was on the Coconut label, and that one there's pretty clean for an African record. One of the challenges with buying Fela is being able to trust the conditions, and if you know something about African records, certainly something you do have to take into consideration. Okay, more Fela, more in the African form. Here we have Opposite People. This one promotes aphrodisia, and let's get that record out. There we go, and that's the aphrodisia label. Certainly promoting the fact on the label that it's in Pidgin English, which is good because you can understand what he's talking about. Now, those originals, it's a little treat. I shout myself every time I go to Paris. So, yep, I'll grab myself a Fela original or two if I can. Okay, let's continue on. And this one's from 1977. Tunde Williams is still there. Lester Bowie guests on trumpet on this one. So this is, I guess, Fela starting to understand something about the US jazz scene, which he started off when he was in Trinity College, and he started off, I guess, as a Miles Davis influence trumpet player, and then certainly after moving to LA and getting involved with the Black Panthers, certainly breached off into his own genre, which is Afrobeat. Tunde Williams is still on trumpet there. Tony Allen is still the drummer. Okay, let's push on through. And now we have Fela, and this one's from 1977, and it's Sorrow, Tears and Blood. More of Fela's gyrating Afrobeat on this. 3 guitar attack featuring on this, which I think is just amazing, which sort of relates to the fact that the idea of these records is have a big band, and not everyone has to do a lot, and you can have some fun while playing your music. Of course, transportation and other band needs like money, unless you become huge. And Fela was a big presence in Nigeria during his time, and still is. Meant he had some money, but with so many band members, it would have been difficult to maintain that. Okay, we're starting to keep into the African records, and this one's called Unknown Soldier, and here it is in its original format. Certainly, this one features some cover art here, which explains some of the issues in Nigeria, and certainly reflects the Nigerian regime at the time and Fela's plight with them, and you can see some not so nice happenings to Fela. That one's quite a nice copy, and here we are on the Skylark label. Okay, next one up, one of the big ones. Okay, now this one's called Coffin for Head of State. Okay, more of the protest against the regime in Nigeria. And you get a somber picture of Fela's mother's coffin in procession there. Fela's mother was a major feminist in Nigeria and helped to shape that country's movement. So it's kind of interesting. Fela with his traditional views of wives not being in the same as the European tradition, when his mother was a key feminist for the African movement, Nigeria in particular. what happened was with Fela's mother was that when one of the raids were on the Republic, she was involved and she was actually killed in the process. And there we go. And then we're on the Calcutta Records, Fela's own label. I guess I kept this one here, and it's the Knitting Factory version. It's not some fancy Abbey Road remastered version, and certainly doesn't have the beautiful cover of the original, but being one of my favourite Fela albums, I've kept this as a play copy. There is a inner sleeve which has basically a reprint of what we just saw in that fold out. Ideally, with records that are my absolute favourites, and from artists I have a lot, I like to have the latest and greatest version for sound quality, and if possible, a original that helps reflect the vibe of the time, and I mean the vibe in the best sense of the word, where the pressing contributes to the music, but it helps to place you, the listener, there a little bit. Okay, where are we now in the world of Fela? We've just hit 1980, and Africa 70 still going. What's happening with the band? Well, and this is important, is that this fella has left, and Nicholas Avon is now the drummer. Now, Tony Allen deserves a tribute in his own right, and it should be recognised he was a key part of Fela's sound. What I understand to contribute to Tony leaving was the discourse in his life, and being part of Africa 70 and Fela's world was just becoming personally uncomfortable with him. As you can imagine, with Nigerian regimes falling and rising and then coming back at you, it may be not a way to live your life. Okay, heading into favourite Fela territory again. Here we are, Fela, with the Egypt 80 band, and this one is original Sufferhead on the Lagos international label, Lagos being the capital of Nigeria and one of Africa's most populous cities. Once again, Africa 70 has been replaced by the Egypt 80. Check out that cover art. We get a picture of Fela there in his jocks, and maybe this is the last great Fela album. Doesn't mean he became stale, it just means his politics and his music lost some of that fervour and energy after this. Once again, I do have a reissue here, and that's just to ensure the listening quality. With all these, no need to get an original unless you really want to understand what Nigeria was like in the 1970s in this case, and in the early 80s, sorry, in this case. So not essential, but the way I see it is when collecting artists to this scale, and I think the same about Sun Ra as well, is that collecting all their records because you're very interested in the music, makes sense. However, with some of the more expensive ones, you probably just need to have some examples to understand where it fell. Here we go, more of Fela on the Lagos International label. And here he is with Egypt 80 and Perambulator. A side-long jam on each side from 1983. And I love that Lagos International label. Okay, fella, still going into the 80s. Here he is in 1986. Once again, a 19-minute track on side A and a 19-minute track on side B. And there we go. We get the Lagos International label redone by Knitting Factory. Fella, still going strong. And as we hit 1989, and then we have Beast of No Nations. This was initially sort of played in 1984 and reflects a song about the then Nigerian president, still causing all kinds of controversy in Nigeria and probably starting to become a figure. And the figure is probably about rebellion. His family were quite well known, and his cousin had won a Nobel Prize for literature. Once again, the congas are there, but he only has a 2 conga attack now. But he does have 4 trumpets. So certainly leading the way there. This too's that on the Knitting Factory label. And for completion, I'll just quickly share that one there. And this time we're back on Calcutta Records. Okay. Still going with the Egypt 80. Here we are in 1989 on Calcutta Records. And this one is an album that I guess features the high life in terms of sound and that West African style of vocal. Once again, the congas are there, but now we have a big conga and a rhythm conga. This is a Nigerian press, and I guess the attraction here is as we hit the 90s, I really wanted to be able to touch and feel 1989 feeler. And there it is on the Calcutta label. That's all the individual records I have from Fela. But the other thing that happened, and I guess this was a collecting conundrum at the time, there were these fantastic vinyl boxes being released, and the one that I did end up buying was this one, which was one that was compiled by Erykah Badu, of all people. Because I had so much Fela and so many of the Knitting Factory records, I actually didn't end up buying the other editions because I already had a number. And what was probably good to know was that the Eno set had a heap of my favourites, and so did the others. So it was good to be able to basically buy this box set and know that I was getting a heap of records that I didn't already have. So for completion, I'll just open it up here. So what you got in these box sets was the obligatory poster. And in this case, I mean, how great's that? Why aren't I hanging that? Good question. Anyway, it's Fela there. And then you got the obligatory booklet, and these booklets went deep, including lyrics. And I guess if I thought about it again, I would buy all the albums via these box sets, just because they're basically the same pressings as the Knitting Factory ones, but you also get a couple of little extras. And just to round out my video, I'll go through these albums here as well. So Yellow Fever, once again, Knitting Factory. This one's from 1976. Fits very nicely into Fela's canon. You can see the massive band on the back there. The last time I was in Paris, I saw this and I balked for literally 5 minutes, and somebody else walked into Superfly and grabbed it in front of me. Unbelievable. It's on my Superfly video from about this time last year. And yeah, I can't believe I balked. Underground System. This one's from 1992. It's good to see Fela still involved. Now, Fela, I mentioned earlier, went to Trinity College in London. And in this one here, he talks about Margaret Thatcher. Thatcher of old roofs, or is Queen Victoria back? Erykah Badu having good taste there. Keeps Fela alive for me into the 90s. Another one of Erykah selections. Side 1 is an instrumental. Side 2 is the vocal. And this one here features most of Africa 80. And it's called Army Arrangement. Leader, and here's the thank you from Fela. Leader wishes to thank Dr. and Mrs. Biko Ransom Kuti, Fema Kuti, Pascal Imbert, Oscilla, and all members of Egypt 80 for their supports to release this album, while Fela himself is serving a 5-year jail service sentence. So that just shows the nature of the passion behind him. And just when I said leader there, I better just clarify. Leader is the distributor of the record. Coffin Estate included. Already been through that one. And here we are. We have VIP, Vagabonds in Power, Africa 70. This fits into 1979, and it's live in Berlin. Oh man, what to see. Africa and on his groove in Berlin in 1979. Certainly Europe in the 70s. What a place to be. And here we have Fela, JJD. This is a 1977 album. There we go. We get a picture of Lagos there, noting how Lagos sits with the islands out in the background there. Basically, the wealthy folk live on the islands. Everyone else lives in the city, and some of it's the most densely populated areas of human inhabitants in the world. In Lagos, in some of the more working class areas, it's 1 million people to 7 square kilometres of land. So certainly a bit packed in there. And here we have No Agreement. And this is Fela from 1977. Tony Allen's on board here at this stage. And Fela talks through the state of the nation at that time on the Kalakuta records. And Erykah, who seems to have a naturally diverse taste to mine. So I'm pleased I got that box set. So I guess the other key thing is there's a lot of albums here and there's a lot to collect. But I guess the big advantage with this is there is a very simple way, and that is there is a CD box set. Complete Fela. It's where I know everything from. Interesting CDs in that some of them have 2 CDs, 2 albums on the one CD. So I'm just picking expensive shit, because it's one of my favourite ones, and it comes with He Misrode. In days gone by, in share house type situations, load up the multiplayer, chuck in Fela, and enjoy your afternoon. Okay, that's my roundup of Fela Kuti and African music. And I'd probably like to mention, with all things Fela, and this is key for me, is the propulsion provided by Tony Allen. Here he is playing with African 70, so this is an addendum, I guess, to the Fela story, but really it's a key part of it. It's Tony's driving beat, which makes Afrobeat key, and he continued on with multiple artists into the 2020s when he died. Okay, thanks VC, talk soon.